Hello, my name is Elijah, and welcome to my podcast, Songwriting for Songwriters. This podcast is all about celebrating the art form of songwriting. I talk to special songwriting guests, producers, and artists about songwriting, making records, and how music shapes artists' creative visions. My aim is to create a resource library of conversations with some of the most successful songwriters, legendary artists, cult heroes, game changers, and my own personal heroes and influences to inspire you, the songwriter or music fan. As a songwriter myself, me and my guests go deeper into the creative activity we love the most and which we are all obsessed by, songwriting. You can also get yourself a copy of my book, The Songwriter's Handbook, from Amazon, in paperback form or on Kindle, which is filled with 52 songwriting challenges and themes to help you find a spark or seed of an idea for your next song, or if you've never written a song before, for your very first. The theme music for this episode and this season is a track called Wake of the Dawn by my band The Gravity Drive. You can find that track on all streaming platforms and also from thegravitydrive.com, taken from the album The Wild Light. Joining me today on the Songwriting for Songwriters podcast is creative polymath Graham Fellows. Graham is a songwriter, writer, actor and comic performer who first came to the public's attention as Jilted John with his classic punk hit Jilted John, Gordon is a Moron, which was recently voted by BBC Six Music as the best one-hit wonder of all time. He went on to create a much-loved British comedy songwriting character, John Shuttleworth, who has appeared on television and radio and written such comedy classic songs as Can't Go Back to Savory Now and Pigeon in Flight. I had the pleasure of watching Graham perform as John Shuttleworth on the last night of his recent tour. We struck up a friendship, and this conversation is one of my favourite conversations on the Songwriting for Songwriters podcast. So please sit down, get yourself a cup of tea and enjoy this wonderful conversation with Graham Fellows. Joining me today on the Songwriting for Songwriters podcast is songwriter, performer, comedian, actor and writer Graham Fellows. Graham, how are you doing, mate?
I'm not too bad, thank you. I've just been to Specsavers and I've selected 2 pairs of spectacles for my next adventure in spectacle wearing.
Fantastic. Have you kind of changed style? Have you sort of flipped the script a bit?
I have just subtly changed style. I had the kind of black, sort of slightly Joe 90 look, and slightly big frames, but I've gone for something a bit more subtle.
Right.
But yeah.
I've always been into glasses.
Yeah. Well, I have never been into them, but then I invented a character that I decided had to wear them, really. Mr.
Absolutely.
Shuttleworth, I'm sure we'll talk about later.
We will definitely talk about that. So listen, as I said at the start of this, you're a bit of a creative polymath, a songwriter, performer, actor, writer, comedian. Do you see yourself as predominantly one of those first, or are you an artist who sort of is doing whatever you feel at any given time?
The latter, I like to think. Though, of course, when you have to make a living and you're on a deadline, you start to resent the fact that you're just doing one thing, right, and churning it out, which is probably what I felt with John Shuttleworth for quite a few years. And I've just finished a big tour, as you know, because the last date was at your wonderful theatre.
It was, and it was a fantastic evening as well. Brilliant.
In Lyme Regis, because I've heard some of your podcasts, but you don't really talk about your amazing theatre. Perhaps that's just modesty, or just doesn't really fit.
No,
talk about it.
It's basically because I started the podcast before I started working at the theatre, so it's just time-related thing, actually.
Yeah.
One thing that this is one of the things about that role, which is quite interesting, is sometimes the show happens, but you get to know the person, and if you're a fan of the person, it's bloody amazing, like you know yourself. But sometimes you catch little moments in someone's journey. And for example, I had John Power from Cast doing a chat, and I went to take him a drink after the show, and he was on the phone, and he just had got the phone call that Cast were going to join Oasis in America. So you get these little moments. I had that with you at the theatre, and hopefully this isn't
no, it was great. I felt there was an instant bond when we met each other.
Absolutely, but I caught a moment and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, and if you do, we'll edit it out. But
Um,
when after you finished playing, it was obviously the last night of the John Shuttlesworth tour, and possibly his farewell tour. And so after you got off stage, I took you a drink, and I heard
mm.
what I thought. I thought you were on the phone, so I stopped and went, "Okay, just hold on a minute. He's on the phone." What became apparent, and it was honestly one of the most sort of surreally magnificent moments of my life as an artist to witness. I heard you sort of you as Graham having a chat with John and then having a chat with Ken about whether this should be the last night of the tour. And it was bloody amazing because I was able to actually witness and briefly listen to you kind of talk to the different characters and discuss something. And then I sort of knocked on the door and gave you a drink. But it was incredible. And I hope you don't mind me sharing that. But it was a real.
No, I don't. But what you don't know is that when you came in, I kept record on because I was recording John and Ken's chat with me, just in case I want to use it in the future.
Yeah.
Because I'm always like that, you never know. And I just kept it on record. So you gave a lovely speech
God.
about me, and I've got that. And I hope you don't mind me having that
Not
on.
at all, not at all. No, no, not at all. I mean, for me, it was just this thing of like, I got the shivers because I was like, Jesus, I'm seeing someone who I
Yeah.
regard as a creative genius here. Sort of actually,
Well,
I've got a backstage pass to actually see it. It was amazing. So it leads me on to the question of like when you're writing, um, are you writing as Graham and as the melody fits or a song fits into John, or is you writing as John? Who what's the kind of device there? Is it like do you write a song and then think that's a John song, or do you kind of write as John?
well, that's a very complicated question, and I could spend a long time answering it. But I know you like to ask a lot of questions, so I won't. I'll basically say it depends. It really does depend because if I've got to write a couple of John songs for a radio show, say,
Yeah,
which is something that I spent a long time doing,
yeah,
which in a way is quite comforting having to sort of write to demand,
yeah,
which sounds counterintuitive, but I find, if you wake up in the morning and you don't know what you're going to do and you just sit there with it's like a writer with a blank bit of paper. I don't really like that. I like to say, oh, I've got to write a song for John about him, about his son Darren leaving home.
yeah,
So I start working on that, and then I know it's going to be a John song, and it's no problem. But sometimes I've written a song. This has happened quite a lot actually for myself,
yeah,
for Graham Fellows. Because that's my dream is to one day have a career outside John, and occasionally I make little forays into doing that. I've had a couple of albums out as myself, so I'll start writing a song, and then I realise, oh no, this is it looks like John's gonna get this one
right,
because
right,
so I have to give it to John, which sounds silly, but. And then I've reclaimed them actually. I mean, there's a song called "You Like Manchester," which I wrote as myself for myself because I used to live in Manchester, and it's full of puns about place names in Manchester. You're like Manchester, you've got strange ways.
yeah, yeah,
That's the first line. But I soon realised. Well, I did a version as myself, and then John needed a song about Manchester, so I thought, oh, this fits rather well.
right.
And then, but I've taken it back. Well, John's let me borrow it. Yeah.
Just um, one of the things that I think people might consider, and also what I think is, or would like to ask you is, I think it's true of many comedians and performers who've got a character they've developed and become known for. How much is John, because he's a very, very sort of defined personality. How much is John in your own head? Is there a kind of is he a strong character that lives inside your head, or are you kind of just thinking as Graham sort of going, oh, this might be an idea for John? Is he almost like a separate entity?
Well, yes, I hope he's a separate entity, but at the same time, obviously, as an actor, I'm performing him,
Yeah,
to the best of my ability. You've got two trains of thought running at the same time, and on stage, God, when you've done as many hundreds of gigs as I have, as I mean, imagine being in the mousetrap for 40 years
yeah, yeah,
as an actor playing the same part. It would
yeah.
do your head in.
Sure, sure.
And some actors have done that, haven't they?
Yeah,
Anyway, but I've done John, for nearly 40 years. First couple of years, I was mucking about making tapes, which in a way was probably the most fun stage of John, developing, learning all about him, really. And then it became, gigs have been not that easy sometimes because you're doing John and you have to stay as John.
Yeah,
There's no, I'm not, it's not a character where I will sort of, do you remember how sort of people like Cannon and Ball or,
yeah, yeah.
awful people like that, they just come out of character or they'd laugh all the time, but just little and large, corpsing, John is a character who could never corpse because it would break the fourth wall and it just wouldn't be appropriate, would it, for John? Because it's a man, it's another man.
I mean, it's like I'm from the north originally, from North Yorkshire, and I think I've actually met a John type, a very similar type to John, and it's I think there's a sort of there is like a personality to like in the Midlands, a character personality is a Midland sort of personality, and there's a kind of Scouse personality, a Scottish one, but he does really sort of have that kind of Yorkshire thing. It's a particular thing, isn't it? A Yorkshire sort
Yeah.
of man of that age in that kind of way.
Yes, it is. It's hard to define what it is, but I think I identified it when I was, and I've said this in the past, when working behind the bar in the Crooks Working Men's Club.
Yeah.
And you just get humorless guys who watching you as you pour their pint, and if it's not exactly right,
That's it. Yeah.
they get a bit shirty. And also, when I bred mice for a few years and went to mouse shows, and you got again these guys, usually from Yorkshire or Lancashire, incredibly sort of serious about what they were doing. And yeah, I think I must have given that to John. By the way, I said to Cannon and Ball and awful people like that. I don't know why I said that. I don't mind Cannon and Ball.
Well, I think it's just one of those
Yeah,
things.
so you can either cut that out or keep this bit in where I
We'll keep
qualify
this
what I've
bit in
just
because
said.
I think
Yeah,
we'll keep
yeah.
this bit in.
I just meant I just suddenly thought of people. Well, Morecambe and Wise, you see, they used to corpse a lot, didn't they?
Absolutely.
But then I suppose because the characters that they're playing, they were slight characters. They were, it's not. That's it. That's the point. It's just a little caricature. Whereas John is clearly not a caricature.
No.
It's a living, breathing, alternative person.
I mean, it's just. I mean, it's. Yeah. I mean, I've loved John for years, and it's brilliant. But and just, I mean, it's the radio shows. One of my favorite songs of all time. I mean, it's like the Ruttles, right? There's a kind of thing where, like, if you like a comedy record, is one thing. But like, for example, one of my favorite songs is "Cheese and Onions" by the Ruttles, which is like a piss take of the Beatles, but
Yes.
it's actually brilliant. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
melodically brilliant, and it's the
Yeah.
same with John. One of my favorite songs of all time because of the absolute, first of all, the melodic genius of it, but also the pathos in it, and the sort of, it's almost like a massive ballad or of a kind of Coldplay way. It's "Can't Go Back to Savory Now." I mean, that as a piece of comedic work is genius, but also melodically as well it is the same thing. It's almost like if you took John out of it and put like some sort of earnest sentiment over it or something, that's a massive hit. Just tell me briefly, for my own complete fascination and obsession, where did Can't Go Back to Savory Now come from?
I'll tell you in a second. I was just suddenly thinking Robbie Williams. Maybe
Yeah, exactly.
he could record it for his. It's a Robbie Williams kind of tune, isn't it?
That's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
almost like a Robbie Coldplay. It's that kind of thing.
Well, it came from my ex now. I have three kids, and we were sitting having a family meal. And as in the song, basically, my son didn't want his main course. He'd finished, and I didn't really want it. So perhaps I did, but I offered it to my ex, Catherine, and she said, without any provocation from me, I don't know where it came from. I'd never heard her say it before, but she went, "Oh no, 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 I can't go back to Savory now." And yeah, it's got a lovely rhythm, hasn't it? Just as a phrase. So I probably did go back to Savory and my son's main course, but I don't think I hung around for my suite. I went off and wrote that song because I just knew it would. It's just yeah. I must have started humming the tune because can't go back to Savory, can't go back to Savory now. It's just one of those like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. It
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
got a kind of rhythm.
But it's almost like if it's like those old tunes like By the Time I Get to Phoenix or like
Yes,
Caroline
yes,
Man. It's almost if you change the word savory like to like a place, and then
yes,
it's like
indeed,
it's
yeah,
got that level of like
yeah.
pathos in the title, isn't it? Just like genius.
Well, I guess there is that as well. It's a Gene Pitney type song, isn't it? Or Glenn Campbell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Brilliant song. So listen, I've listened to. We'll get back to different parts of your career as a songwriter. Obviously, you're also known for Jilted John, um,
yeah.
Gordon's a Moron, which has been fairly recently voted as the best one-hit wonder of all time by BBC Music. Which, let's face it, I think that is a.
Wow.
I think
Well,
that is the case, isn't it? You know,
no, I totally disagree with that because probably my favorite record of all time, or certainly one of them, is Thunderclap Newman, Something in the Air.
that is true. That's a genius.
Pete Townshend's finest moment. He plays bass and produces it, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that's
And
true.
I mean, that was a one-hit wonder. It's extraordinary. Um, so no, I think my song far exceeded my expectations and a lot of people's. I think a lot of people have given it the benefit of the doubt. It is a bit of silliness that was parodying punk, um, and but it did come out just at the right time, and it captured the imagination of every single 8-year-old in the country, as well as teenagers and some adults.
Well, and his generation as well. I mean, I remember, like, literally remember being 21 on it or 20 at a New Year's Eve party and watching my brother go mental to that song. It's one of those. It's timeless.
Yes,
Kind of beyond the punk
yes.
thing. It's timeless.
But people did go mental to it. I remember when I got the acetate or the first tape, and I was a student, at the Manchester Poly School of Theatre in Manchester, obviously, and I played it at a party, and the people just went wild for it. And this girl I was sort of going out with, but not really, chased me down the road because I was suddenly a star.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was after the first airing on John Peel, I think.
I mean, how old are you when that happened? So you're young. You were young, right? When that
Well, I
happened.
wrote it when I was 18.
Yeah.
Actually, I wrote it in '77, just before Christmas, and then I kind of finished it off '78. We rehearsed it. We got a little band together, kept rehearsing it, because of course studio time was still very expensive then,
Yeah.
and even in a little 8-track, it was 30, 40 pounds an hour, something. So we went into, I think, Pennine Studios in Oldham in April. I was, I had to I had to do a drama workshop before, and I forgot all my lines in it because I was thinking just about the recording, and then rushed off and did it. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. But the sad thing really for me is that the biggest, the best fun was probably before it was a hit.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's often the sense, isn't it? When you're like, I mean, I'm just going through something myself now. I've just kind of working on a song and I'm having so much fun and excitement doing it. And then you've got to like release it and do all the rest of it. But often the
Yeah.
purest fun and excitement is when you're working something up yourself, isn't it, really?
Well, at least you know how to release it, Elijah. I don't. How do you release things now?
Well, I'm not sure I do know, but I sort of know, I know enough how to put it out, but I mean, it's a different industry to what it was. I mean, I think for me, what I'm trying to say is, I think, you can't really work out what's going to happen once you've released it and how well it goes or the rest of it. But
No.
the excitement of making
Yeah.
something like it's like
Oh.
the rainy day at school, when you couldn't go out and
Mm.
play, but so you had to draw. I used to love that. I think that
Mm.
pure creative process is really a great thing. And I was just aligning that to what you were saying about the most fun was before it was released and you were building it up, if I'm right.
Yeah, and it's also to do with people because you know I felt that I was treated differently once it was a hit, and I'd been on the telly a few
Right.
times, and just people in the street would and friends were different towards me, and I felt different, and something in me died, which is a bit sad. And the moral of that is don't have a hit while you're very young.
Yeah, I mean,
It didn't do me any good at all, and
okay, okay.
still recovering from it.
Yeah, I can imagine that because it's also but I can seriously imagine that. It's like
Yeah.
things. I've had friends who were meant to be the next big thing when they were like 19, 20, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And then they spent about 10 years sort of trying to get over that sort of.
Well, yeah. Sorry, you just reminded me of a brilliant documentary that I saw recently called. Is it called Lawrence, or is it about Lawrence? You must know Lawrence from the what's the band called? He's called Lawrence, and he's really famous. His latest band was called Go Kart Mozart.
Okay, I don't know about this.
Oh, but he was also in a quite a well-known band that I'll come back to you on that. But it's a brilliant because he'd been trying for years and years and didn't make it, but felt like he should have done.
Yeah,
It was just,
yeah,
and he said that to the camera, and he said because when he was about 18 or 19, he was like nearly made it, and then he just kept going, and the film picks up with him when he's about 40, 45. But it was just how a music documentary should be made. You were just unaware of the camera. They just these people just talking to each other. By the way, let me tell you my cast story. We're talking about Cast, the Liverpool group, aren't we?
Yeah. Yes, we are.
Yeah, I was sat in a hotel in London, the legendary Columbia, where apparently Oasis used to trash the fourth floor or something.
Yeah,
but it was before then. And Cast were there, and it's not a very good punchline, but they were just sat in silence. Then suddenly the bass player, for want of anything better to say, yelled out, "Hey, when we went to Japan, it was fucking boss, wasn't it?" And then one of the others went, "Yeah, it was."
That's amazing.
That's my story. That's my Cast story. It's good, isn't it?
That is a good one. It's fucking boss.
It's fucking boss when we went to Japan. Yeah.
So going back to another album, which I've just recently heard, because the thing is, what I'm trying to get to here with you, I think, is that you're a comedian and you're known for these different people like Jilted John and John Shuttleworth, and it's performance and the from a songwriting angle, your melodies are like so good, and the arrangements are so good, and the instant melodies. And I had the pure delight of listening to like Love at the Hacienda this week.
Yeah,
like Jesus Christ, this album's like I've had obviously known Jilted John, I know John Shuttleworth, la 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 la, and then I heard
you're saying John Shuttleworth wrong. It's John Shuttleworth. You're sticking an S in the middle there.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah,
it's all right. But I'm thinking maybe I should change it because it sounds funnier. Shuttlesworth.
Maybe he added a letter just to go back on tour.
yeah.
But the Love at Hacienda it's such a great album, man. It's like it's so tight and concise, and sort of the sort of melodies are like so good, like Conquering Spring, Kiss and Tremble. It's a really great piece of work, man.
Well, thank you very much. And it's got a kind of, talking of Japan, it's got a cult status apparently in Japan. Right. I think it must have popped up in an indie magazine or something, because suddenly I found old vinyl copies were going on eBay for 200 quid. This is about 15 years ago. And then I put a copy myself on a couple of years after that, and it only went for 70 quid. But it's still quite sought after. And it's an album that just didn't do anything. But a lot of people cite it as one of their favourite records and an early version of sort of UK indie pop.
Yeah, I mean, that's really because I was listening to something. I was like, this record is well, no matter how well known it was or wasn't, whatever. But it's like this is a building block into what came next, whether people know about it or not. It bloody well is. It's like people like the Lightning Seeds was like, this is like they must listen to that album because it's like it's informative at that age.
Bless you, thank you. I mean, the irony is, the record did well enough for me to get a publishing deal on the back of it with Chapel Music.
Yeah.
And on the day of my signing in 85 or early 86, I would, yeah, no, exactly. It was 85. It was June 85. I was played some tapes in the office of the A&R guy who'd signed me, just as part of the celebration of me signing, for light relief. And they were proto John Shuttleworth people.
Right.
They were bad demos that they got a collection of, you know, and they
Okay.
played them, and everyone laughed. And I went, I like that. I'm going to make my own
Brilliant.
bad demo. And so that night, I was still living in Manchester then, and I went back up there, and I did a tape, and I created John Shuttleworth, and I sent it in to the publisher anonymously.
Brilliant.
As a gag, as a joke, and it took him a couple of days to work out it was me, and then that got passed around like the other tapes, and John Shuttleworth was born, and bizarrely and ironically, very cruel, the Graham Fellows stuff and Love at the Hacienda got not shelved but parked up for a few years, and that's what happened. Weird, isn't it?
It's fun. Well, it's a funny
Yeah.
thing, but what's really good about you talking about that is, or something I'm taking from it is, you know, you're constantly creating, right? So you heard that and thought that's an idea. So like whatever happened as a result of it, what's really coming across is the endless creativity and productivity.
Yeah. I think Love at the Hacienda, to be fair, was me showing off a bit. It's me saying, look, I can write really good songs. You know, because I'd spent years kind of honing them after Jilted John, that was more or less my first song. You know, apart from silly little things I'd written when I was a kid. And so I made an album called True Love Stories, which has its moments, but didn't sell very well. And then I just kind of disappeared. And so, yeah, I'll never have a hit again. So I just set to writing as many songs as I could. I was writing every day, like a couple of songs a day. And I had a Porter Studios, a lot of songwriters did then, you know, the cassette, the 4-track cassette. Yeah, I mean, and I just devoted my days to when I should have been, I was, you know, trying to be an actor, but I was more interested in the songwriting, and I think I learned how to write songs and record then. So, but yeah, creating John Shuttleworth was probably for me refreshing, because I was getting a bit fed up of trying to be serious. Or, you know,
so let's have a look at your influences, because again, I mean, I think you're one of, I mean this completely sincerely, I think you're one of the UK's best melody writers. So I'm interested to know where your influences come from and what shapes that kind of sense of musicality in you.
The answer may surprise you.
Okay.
It's assemblies at junior school.
That's a great answer, man.
But it's true, because
I
used to love all those hymns that we sang, you know.
Yeah, I totally get
that. Us with a glass of mine.
So true.
Immortal, invisible, and then lovely tunes like "There Is a Green Hill Far Away." You know, so it's also, yeah, and carols, and I used to love carol singing. Yeah. I'll tell you a little story now. I when I was about 15, I couldn't get anyone to go carol singing with me, so I recorded a voice singing a carol, say like "While Shepherds Watch." And on the tape, on the cassette tape, a little handheld cassette player, and then went to houses, knocked on the door, set the tape going, while shepherds watch their flock, and I joined in, but with a harmony. While shepherds watch their flocks by night, all seated on the ground, which is a lovely harmony. And people would answer the door and look around for the second person. Soon realised there was a cassette player, but I did tend to get, you know, more money because people thought I'd done. It was quite ingenious, you know, to use a cassette player.
It's also ingenious. It's quite sweet as well.
It is sweet.
It's the need to perform and create. It's like at that age, it's brilliant.
Well, but also then years later, I remembered that. And when I was doing a Christmas special for Radio 4 of the Shuttleworths, John goes carol singing. Ken won't go with him. So what does he do? He takes a cassette player and does the same thing. But of course, the batteries start to wear out. So it goes, well, look my name. So John tries to sing along, and it doesn't
Oh, that's brilliant.
sound very good.
We
But
all
I was great fun recording that, you see, because I wanted to do it genuinely. So I got some batteries that were really on their way out, and so I could get that effect.
fantastic.
I used to love. That's what I've kind of stopped doing radio shows for now. But I used to love getting the sound effects together.
Yeah.
Was the most exciting thing. Once I needed the sound of a frisbee hitting a camper van. How do you get that? Well, you get someone to throw a frisbee at a camper van. That's the only way you can do it. Luckily, we had a camper van, and we found a frisbee. And but there was another time I remember I wanted to get the sound of a cassette player being switched on or off. Now there was no sound on my cassette player. It didn't. It was too posh. It didn't make a sound.
Okay.
So I ended up using a vacuum cleaner.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's what I love about radio is that, once you've recorded it, put in the scene, people believe it. They believe that it's a cassette player being switched on and off,
I love that.
not a Hoover. And that's why radio is much better than telly.
That's brilliant, man. Just made me remember just a small thing, but actually the theme song for this episode is a track called "Wake of the Dawn" by my band, The Gravity Drive, and we wanted a helicopter sound, and obviously couldn't find a helicopter, so our producer basically he was challenged to come up with this sound, and he did a really good job. And I was like, "What? How did you do that?" And he basically went outside, tied some wet tea towels together, and like flung it around his head and made the sound. So that's I love all that stuff,
But yeah, that's great.
It's really great. Can I just ask you a quick? Were you born into a creative household?
Well, not overly. Normal. I mean, my dad used to play. My dad was a photographer.
Yeah.
By trade, but not kind of humdrum photography. He made his living from photographing houses for estate agents, which back then was a big thing, and he told me years later it was because basically he could process the film and do the prints straight away, whereas you couldn't do that. Estate agents couldn't get the film processed. Take about 2 weeks. They had to wait.
Absolutely.
So when overnight processing in chemists and stuff came in, my dad's career just nosedived.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, and he was only about 55, and he had to. Well, he should have diversified, but he didn't. He became a John Shuttleworth in a way. He didn't write songs, but he would sit having his breakfast and cleaning the threads of the jam jars, and looking through junk mail and reading it thoroughly, and then. Lovely man. But I made a film years later called Father Earth.
Yes, I saw the trailer for that the other day.
Yeah, and
watch that.
Well, it's an homage to my dad, really.
Brilliant.
and father-son relationship. But going back to your being creative, my mum sang a little bit. She was always singing songs as she. Yeah, so we're fairly creative. But my sister played the piano. But apart from that, I was always pretty creative. I did an audition for Opportunity Knocks.
Brilliant.
With my some friends, I think, called the Perfects. We were called the Perfects.
Excellent.
And my first record was actually when I was 10, because it was I was in a junior school choir, and me and my friend Peter Beecroft rewrote the lyric of Lily the Pink by the Scaffold,
right?
Because the decimal currency was coming in. So Mr. Norris, our teacher, encourages all to write alternative lyrics to herald the arrival of the decimal currency. So we went off and we wrote, "They'll release the tenpenny piece, a piece, and the 5 penny piece as well."
Brilliant.
I won't sing anymore because it was bad. But anyway, we sang that as a choir, and then for some reason it got made into a record.
Amazing.
Yeah, it didn't touch the charts though.
No.
It didn't even graze the top 100. I don't understand.
Well, perhaps as a re-release, Eminent. We need to get it back out there. So, actually, this is just coming to my mind, so I'm just going to ask you off the top of my head. What's your favourite salty snack?
Salty snack.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm actually Pringles. They're not terribly salty, but a cheese and onion.
Cheese and onion.
Yeah. I do like those.
It's a good choice.
And yeah, but I'm not massive on crisps. I'm more of a biscuit man, actually.
Yeah. What's your favourite biscuit?
My favourite biscuit, well, apart from the obvious ones like chocolate ones that are nice, I try custard creams. I think are the best value. Because you think about the construction, there's a lot gone into that.
And also, there's a bit of art form with the cows on top of the
not the cows. That's the malted milk.
Oh, that's the malted milk. Sorry.
Yeah, but hey, we're getting into John Shuttleworth territory here because
let's jump back out of.
No, okay, but he loves talking about malted milk biscuits and how sometimes there's only one cow, and it's not as nice, or there's a few more blades of grass on different versions. And also, I used to talk about the custard cream, about how it's fun to bite round the edges along and create a diamond. You can create a diamond shape, can't you? Because it's got a diamond shape on the front, but you can nibble away until you're left with a diamond, and that's obviously worth a lot more than if it was just a
rectangle. Mine was the bourbon. I think that was my favourite.
Well, yeah, bourbons should be. I mean, it's a great name, isn't it?
It's sort of a connoisseur of a kind of cheap supermarket biscuit. It's got a kind of level of kind of connoisseurness to it. I think
it has, but I'm always a bit disappointed when I eat them. Nice biscuits or nice biscuits, I've always loved.
Bit sweet, but I get you.
Right, yeah, it sounds like I've got slightly sweeter tooth than you.
I think custard cream is a good choice because it's reliable,
Yeah, they do tend to be. You can buy a cheap custard cream, and they're usually as good as an expensive one.
I'm loving this conversation. Let me jump out of biscuits to. So you hit on something a bit earlier, which was like, you've got the character records and the Graham Fellows as a songwriter as well. You said something at the start about still having a desire to put out a kind of Graham Fellows record. So having just completed what may be the final Shuttleworth tour, are you going to make that Graham Fellows record? What have you got on the horizon?
Well, at the moment I haven't got it on the horizon, but I am thinking in 2 years' time it will be 2028, 50 years since that record.
Right.
Jilted John, and I've got to do something there. I mean, for the 40th anniversary, I got a band together and we went out and we did a tour called Here We Go 2 3 40.
Nice.
Get it?
Nice.
And we had a lot of fun doing that. I don't think I want to do that this time. But I thought I could do a Graham Fellows tour and have Jilted John. I could perform Jilted John towards the end,
Yeah, that's good.
Happy birthday to John, and stick in, bits of Shuttleworth, bits of other characters, and my hacienda songs and newer songs.
A sort of best of.
It could be a best of, yeah. And certainly there'll be a record or a CD or a download or whatever,
or a streamer or whatever,
or a streamer, yeah, to go with that. But right now, I'm actually this autumn I'm planning to do a small tour of a film that's 20 years old that I made called It's Nice Up North, which is set in the Shetland Isles, and it was filmed by a fantastic, brilliant, and sadly no longer with us photographer called Martin Parr.
Yes, yeah,
who unexpectedly died in December.
Very sad. He was due to be at the Marine actually as well, the theatre.
Was he?
Yeah, to give a conversation. So that
he? When was he going to come?
I think he was going to be coming in in this program period at the spring, and obviously it's tragically sad, but it's been it's kind of the office. Stuff knew about that. So
no, it was a lovely, wonderful, slightly strange, but then aren't we all man? But an incredible workaholic who, I mean, apparently he was at the the Italian Alps the day before he died, just doing a job, and then came back, went upstairs to watch telly, and just fell asleep, according to his wife. And quite a nice way to go, I
Not a
suppose.
bad way to go.
But anyway, I thought that's another reason to put the film out again,
Definitely.
and with a bit of an angle towards Martin, because I mean, it's obviously he's a character in the film in a way, because I mean, it's my first film. I've made two or three now. It's Nice Up North was based on me. I went to Shetland to do a gig, and I went with my family. This is in 2002, and we went further north. I thought, oh, people seem to be getting nicer. That guy on the ferry was really nice. And then I thought, oh, it's nice. Could there be a John film where he goes further and further north to see if people get nicer?
Brilliant.
And because this Shetland is, I don't know if you've ever been, but
No, I haven't.
it's got 3 islands. Well, it's got more than 3, but they sort of like stepping stones. Is the main island, and then north of that is an island called Yell. North of that is the final island called Unst, which is an anagram of nuts, because you have to be to live there, apparently.
Yeah.
But anyway, with my map, when you folded it or unfolded it, at first Unst doesn't appear. Right on the line, it's Yell. Yell seems to be the most northerly.
Okay.
So I thought, oh, there's a plot. I could see a little plot point there. John would get to Yell and think he's arrived, and then someone would open the map for him and go, oh, no, John, your mission isn't completed yet. So anyway, I put it all together and had a lot of fun doing that. And Martin came and was the cameraman, and was great because, of course, he's a southerner. Well, he's not actually, he's a northerner, but he did talk quite posh. And so John decided he was a southern softie.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So that's what I'll probably do this autumn. And I mean, I'm kind of retired, well, semi-retired. But as for John coming back, John Shuttleworth, who knows? I think it's silly to say you're never going to do something again. But I don't really have a plan, a career plan anymore. I'm just going to do what feels right.
I think that's what I said to you in my speech at the Marine.
Yeah.
Was like, I mean, you've earned the right to do whatever you want whenever you want to, because it's like, it's. I think.
Do you think I've earned the right to party?
I think you've definitely earned the right to party.
Sorry, suddenly reminded me of that.
Absolutely.
Beastie Boys song.
Another classic.
But I don't want to party. It's too noisy, and I get a bad tummy with the rich food and drink.
Even though you said you've retired, like, part of me, I understand that, but like, am I right in thinking that you're sort of still being creative every day, or writing, or sort of coming up with something every day, or weekly at least?
No, I'm not really. I'm not songwriting much at all.
Okay.
And that's a cause of slight worry, because when I was much younger, I was, as I said, writing 2 or 3 songs a day. And then with John Shuttleworth, it was that comforting thing of having, I know I've got to write these 3 tracks for this radio show.
Sure.
And now do I write songs about being retired? Yes, I probably do, but I haven't quite got that impetus to do it. I mean, I did start writing. I started thinking about how my life has become so, or certainly the life of a retired person. If you retire, you suddenly start noticing the steam coming out of people's neighbours' central heating units on the wall. What's the right word for those things?
Sort of.
What are they called?
Observation. Oh, do you mean the actual?
No. Yeah. I've got to find the word for the bit of kit.
A grill? Is it a grill?
Yeah, it's coming out, but it's sort of. I've noticed, you could have 2 or 3 houses, because I live in a terrace house, and I noticed there were like 3 altogether, all billowing away like 3 builders vaping in a line, and I just thought, well, that's an observation. Maybe it's a poem, or maybe it's a song.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, I did, I've realised that a lot of my lyrics are kind of poems, and I did do a poetry gig a a few months ago, which, I felt a bit of a fraud, but because I just got up and read song lyrics. Well, I've written the odd poem, but, that's something else I might get into. But because poetry seems a little bit more fluid and as an art form. You've
Yes.
got John Cooper Clarke, people like him who I know from years ago. He wants to be a comedian, doesn't he? Now he just tells stories, and his I don't think he concentrates on his poems so much.
He's
So yeah,
life force. I saw him a few years ago. He was got to meet him briefly. He was as one hoped he would be like.
unbelievable energy.
Unbelievable energy.
For a man with no fat on him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
He's stick and bones, but like it just looked fantastic at the same time.
Yeah, and very nice, generous man.
Well, I hope you don't stay. I hope the retirement phase is merely just a pause of kind of something. I think.
Well, the fact is, I'm getting this tour together. I'm remastering the film and stuff. I'm still
Still working
doing stuff. Yeah, and I might make another film when the idea comes to me. But it's people like Count Arthur Strong,
Yeah.
and Alex Lowe, who does a couple of characters, doesn't he?
Yes.
Who I know both these guys, and they're fantastic. But I think they seem pretty driven. Maybe that's because they're a couple of years behind me in terms of I've been doing John Shuttleworth a long, long time.
Yeah.
So you can tell when you've lost your desire to just keep flogging it.
Sure. Well, I think
not saying they're flogging it, but where you just have to keep thinking of the next project. I don't want to. I want to.
Good.
I'm not going to be around forever. I want to enjoy the steam coming out of people's
absolutely. Well, that's
central heating units. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's magnificent beauty everywhere if you can see it. From the everyday things like that. That's important.
Did you do any? Have you done a lot of traveling? Not for work, but just sort of traveling. Because I haven't. Not for years.
I've done it in the UK, but I've not travelled that much abroad.
Yeah, well, I might do that.
I think that's a good thing, isn't it? It's a very good thing to do. I mean, there is something elementally funny about when British people, particularly from the north, are out of their comfort zone abroad. That's very funny in terms of, just the kind of slight awkwardness of asking for something or finding something's different to what it's like back at home. And
but why are you saying that? Are you saying that I might go and get material? I might be able to gather material.
I think I might be. Be sort of
because I wasn't thinking that. You see, I was just thinking, just travel and maybe find out about myself.
Yeah, absolutely, that's the most important.
I've created many hours of radio, and many hours of songs, and I think maybe that's enough.
That is, to be fair, absolutely right.
or not if it's enough, but maybe just think a bit more carefully about filling the world with more mess.
That's I think it's nice to hear you say that, because obviously you're absolutely right. You've created an abundance of great work, and if this time is to do something reflective or something different, then absolutely, you're absolutely right. Can I ask you a question about intention?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've also written a lot of rubbish, and you always hope that people aren't going to dwell on the rubbish and they're just going to remember the good stuff, and hope usually they do.
Well, but I think it's like, if you support, I've said this to Ian Gillan, it didn't actually land very well, but I was sort of, if you're into, for me, if I'm into an artist like yourself or whoever, I sort of think of it as like being a football team, that I'll show up, I'll go to the game, and whatever the performance is, I'll still go and support, because I'm interested
yeah. Well, you must be very interested in songwriting and songwriters, because you've done this podcast for how many years now?
It's 3 years actually. It's
yeah,
not
but you've spoken to a lot of good people.
Well,
and a lot of, how many in total have you done?
I think it's about coming up to about 80. I think.
Yeah,
I nearly stopped.
That's remarkable.
And about 4 months ago, I thought I'd knock it on the head, and then I just kind of thought, hold on, I'm not sure I'm quite finished with this yet, but I need to kind of focus more a little bit on. So when you've done something like a podcast, you kind of, there's people you want to speak to, and there's people that come your way, and there's promoters that get in touch with you.
Yeah.
And then I just thought, well, I really want to concentrate this season, particularly on the people that I'm really want to speak. If I didn't speak to them for this podcast, I'd be a bit disappointed. So I'm going to not that the guests aren't great; they've all been great, but I'm really going to just really focus on speaking to who I need to speak to, because the idea came out of me just like thinking of, I'd be walking around the kitchen having a chat with you in my head, going, I'd ask him this question. So I thought, actually, I better just see if he'd come on the podcast so I can ask him, so I can get the answer. You know?
Yeah.
So that's where.
No, I think it's great, and I've heard a couple of your podcasts, and when you get someone who's, I'd never heard of the guy from Fairground Attraction.
Mark
Um,
Nevin, yeah.
yeah, I found his story fascinating,
He's
and
great.
and I think most songwriters' stories are fascinating, especially if they actually relax and stop trying to sell themselves. And
Yes.
yeah, what's the
It's
point
also,
of that?
it's
Just
the
just
interesting bits, like you've just said something earlier about school assemblies, and I went, that's what I felt like, and the learning and osmosis of those melodies at school and school assemblies, like that is one of the greatest ways to find out about melodies, and
yeah.
that's genius. So it's these little bits that are so interesting to me.
Yeah, but I mean, and then the mums and papas, I really got into them. I loved all their tracks. Um, Early prefab Sprout, really admired him, and I kind of went off punk quite early because I found it musically very limited.
Yeah.
I loved the initial energy of, with the exception of a band like the Stranglers, who kind of went off and did
Yes.
musically more adventurous things.
Yes.
You know, sort of the Sham 69 angelic upstarts of this world, it means nothing to me really. It's just the whole stance is silly to me. It didn't make any sense. And in fact, Jilted John was written as a parody
Yeah.
of people who went,
Yeah.
"Here we go, 2, 3, 4." It was just.
Oh, what a
But
treat.
at the same time, I was slightly at the back of my mind thinking, I want to write a song that has got lyrics about chip shops and bus stops and things that are actually, because disco had just started coming on, hasn't it, about then? And I hated the way the language, everything was romanticized and glamorized. No one spoke apart from Squeeze, of course. They came along, cool for cats, but because Chris Difford is a good mate and brilliant lyricist. But I have to say, and I told this to Chris when I interviewed him for my own radio show, I rhymed smelly and telly before he did.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
In going steady, I meant
You're right there.
I go with her to watch telly. The kids are horrible and the house is dead smelly.
Nicely done.
And then he put it in up the junction, didn't he?
Did.
Da, 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 da. Although the room was smelly, yeah.
He
He
prolonged
must
that.
have heard me and then copied it.
I think that's exactly what happened. But you're right about the British thing. It's like the Americanization of things. It's like actually what makes Britain, if you like, great, is that as well as it being sort of like we've created lots of great writers and musicians and the rest of it, and there's nice nature. It's also a little bit shit, and sometimes that's good to kind of like just find
Yeah,
comfort in the sort of little shit bits as well. That's okay.
yeah,
There's room for that.
absolutely.
What
There's room,
advice
but there's room for a lot of things, aren't there?
Absolutely.
But now we're coming on to there's so much stuff from the past, from now. Everyone is making their own records because it's really cheap to record. It's the same with telly as well, isn't it? And films. What do you do? How do you watch and listen to even a tiny bit of what's out there?
Mm.
It's mind-boggling. I always remember when I first moved to London, and I bought a Time Out magazine, and it's in '87, and it paralyzed me because of all the things that were on,
Yeah, yeah.
and I just didn't go out. I thought I'll just stay at home and look at the stream of the no.
Yeah, the window.
Just go for a walk or something. I just thought I can't. All these comedy shows to start with, thousands. Too much choice. I don't like it.
Too much.
Bring back three channels. That's all we need.
I know, that's true, man. That's true. So what advice would you give a kid of 12, 13 starting to write songs?
Have fun to start with, and write obviously what they want to write, what they know about, and then do a parody if they want to. Parodies are something that I did found quite easy to parody Morrissey quite
Yes,
early on.
that's a good one. That's a good
And
one.
because I realized he did this sort of weird ah, ah,
That's so true.
ah, ah. So when I created Brian Appleton, who's
Yeah,
another character,
yeah.
a Brummy. I have to go into the voice now. It talks just like that. And was based on a friend of mine called Chris Phipps from Sellyoak, again, sadly no longer with us. But he used to be a producer on the Tube,
Okay.
and a presenter himself. And I said, "Can I nick your voice and your look?" And he, for a character, and he said, "Yeah, with my pleasure. Just credit me whenever you can. Credit me." So I will. Chris Phipps, thank you. But anyway, I wrote this song called "My Turn to Be Poorly," and I think I did wrote it as a parody of Morrissey,
That's
and
brilliant.
then I gave it to Brian, and then Brian claims that he created the sound of the Smiths
Amazing.
before Morrissey
I love
met
that.
Johnny Marr. So my turn to be poorly, she said, get out of bed, you're better now, surely. My turn to be infirm, stop acting like a kid, it's me that's the invalid. Oh, she said, get out of bed.
So good.
You smelly bloke, and get back to Sellyoak. Anyway,
So good.
yeah, it was it used to raise a chuckle.
Absolutely.
But going back to your question, I would say do what you like with sorry, or don't bother, and just become stay a music fan, and buy records for the other struggling songwriters to keep them going.
Here's the thing, though, kids, from my Elijah point of view as the podcast host, what Graham has just said there is quite interesting because whilst he might have parodied that Morrissey record, which is hilarious and true, what he's also done is studied the masters. So, you know, if you're gonna parody something, and you are
Yeah,
really studying form, and that's true if you want to be a comedy writer, but also if you want to be a songwriter, is study the study
absolutely. Yeah, and then of course your own voice will
develop.
hopefully distinctive original voice will come through. And for some reason that Yes popped into my head. I used to be a big fan of Yes. I was kind of the right age to enjoy progressive rock. When I was 13, 14, used to love ELP, who
Yeah.
I've since listened to, and I thought, what a load of shit.
Oh,
Um, but Yes, still I've got a lot of affection for Yes, especially and the Apocalypse and You and I,
yeah,
which I just think is an amazing bit of over the top music. You know, that Steve Howe guitar solo just
yeah,
blows my mind. Um, but and John Anderson's lyrics are just so silly, and there's a self-respecting lyricist, someone who writes where it all has to make sense to me. And I think Mark never said this about, he can't bear lyrics that are too obscure. He likes them to make sense, and I do as well. So it's clearly it's a succession of silly images. But when he sings it, it works perfectly, and
yeah.
you couldn't imagine any other kind of, John Anderson couldn't say, "I went, I went to the shops and then bought myself a newspaper." He couldn't do that. It has
No,
to be that gobbledygook that he sings.
absolutely, absolutely.
So it kind of it's almost like I wonder what AI would do with the write a song like Yes. I might try that one.
You know what I actually put into? I mean, I've got some opinions on AI, but anyway, I put into AI, write me a song which is like my band, The Gravity Drive, and did it, and it was quite interesting exercise because it basically, in a sense, kind of highlighted the bits which were like a little bit weak, sort of,
Okay.
and brought those to the surface. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe my lyric writing is a little bit vague like that. It kind of made me sort of cringe a bit because I was like, oh, these are the bits I sort of, that I should be more critical of. It was quite interesting.
I missed the first bit. You said you ask AI to make it like what? Your own music.
Yeah, I did.
Right.
I prompted it to sort of say,
That's interesting.
write me a
Wow.
song like my band, The Gravity Drive, and it sent one back, and it was
Yes.
something like it kind of had a title like "Mystery in the Voice of Echoes" or something, and it was sort of like, okay,
Right.
it's sort of viewing me as being this kind of. It was almost
Yeah.
like you could sort of see what it was thinking of you like, you know, a critical thing or something. It's quite.
Yeah. So have you learned from AI then?
Well, I would say that I need to sort of maybe. I took a few observations from its kind of bad attempt and thought,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
ought to be careful with a couple of elements, but then thought I'm overthinking this and just never mind.
Yeah.
Just went and had a sandwich instead, which changed everything. The blood sugar went back up to
Do
normal,
you,
and I was able
do
to
you
write.
write? Do you write a lot? Do you
Yeah,
write a lot of songs? Are
yeah,
you always writing?
yeah, but not necessarily like always with the guitar like a craftsman. There's always a melody or a lyric on the go in my head that I'm trying to just
Mm.
sort of allow to happen naturally. So I'd say that I'm doing that most of the time in my
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to qualify what I said earlier about I'm not really writing songs, I am always still jotting down ideas on my phone for
exactly.
use or not later, you know.
Yeah.
I think I did that even yesterday. I was with a friend, and he came up with a name. Can I just? You can still
Yeah.
hear me if I do this.
Let's have a look.
I
Yeah.
might. Can you still hear me now?
I can. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, because he just said a name that I just thought was really funny, so I put it in on my phone, and it's gone now.
Oh,
Um, can't find it. That's no good. If you can't find the note,
oof.
that's rubbish, isn't it? Hang on. No. Um, so it was just a funny name, a bit like Joan Chitty, but it was a real. See, for me, names have to be real. I
I,
don't.
I once,
Yeah,
I worked once for what don't know how I got this job because I think it's highly inappropriate to be given it, but I was given the job as like an exam marker for a school whose students were like, you know, struggling with learning, and I was marking their papers.
yeah.
I mean, I think I was doing the first run of marking, and then it was going to get checked. Like, really, it should have been. I should not have been paid for that. But one of the girls that had done this exam was called Dawn Spawn, and I thought that's her name. So
Dawn Spawn. You
Dawn,
see, I couldn't use that because it sounds a bit rude and it sounds a bit silly.
a bit too silly. Yeah.
Well, it too silly. And I think yeah, I found the name.
Okay.
I don't know if it's quite as good as I thought it was when he said it,
Yeah.
but I can hear John Shuttleworth say it. It's Pat Hurley. It could be the friend of Mary's called Pat Hurley. Or no, it might not be Mary's friend. It might be Joan's friend.
Yeah.
Uh, I just like that Pat Hurley. You know, it's not a name you would make up. You see, if you were writing a comedy show, you wouldn't come up with Pat Hurley. You would come up, you know, with Veronica Higginbottom or something, wouldn't
Yeah.
you? You know, just
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
bit sillier,
Yeah. I get that. I get that.
but or Dawn Spawn. but
Dawn,
I like
exactly.
Pat Hurley. I mean, Captain Worthington again. You know,
It's believable. It's
it,
believable.
it is believable, isn't it?
We've met those people. Listen, Graham, I'm
Have you
going to.
met Pat Hurley?
I think I may. Well, in my mind, I might have. Are we talking about a Pat as a man or a woman?
Oh, it's got to be a woman. It was a woman
Okay.
told to me, and I think it's a
I
woman.
think I may have done actually.
No, Pat Hurley as a man isn't very funny. I don't know why.
Yeah, I've got a Pat Hurley woman in mind. I've got an image of her in my mind.
She's quite burly.
Always early.
Yes.
So let
But
me
never
leave you.
surly.
Never surly. Yeah, quite.
Have we come to the end?
We have.
Wow, that's flown by, hasn't it?
Well,
Well, for me anyway. I
it's
don't know
flown by
about for
for
the
me. No,
listeners.
absolutely. I feel like I've been talking for 5 minutes, and I could talk to you forever. I think. Let me just
Oh,
do the
bless you.
fan bit, which is that if you are fans of this show, you probably already know the work of Graham Fellows. But if you don't, go and familiarise yourself with Graham. Is there somewhere that they should go to kind of on social media or website, or just do it themselves?
Well, I've got stuff up, but I'm so bad at maintaining it. I've got a website, grahamfellowsmusic.com, but it really does need overhauling. I mean, I've got a few things on YouTube,
Yeah,
but probably Spotify. You know,
yeah,
Love at the Hacienda, or my newer album, Weird Town.
yeah.
There's a few nice tracks on that.
And what I
Diary of a
suggest,
Skin Bird. I don't know if you know that one.
I don't actually.
Mark Rylance was my lodger.
No.
It's true. He was my lodger
Oh,
in
wow.
Manchester.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's a song. All about the time we went to buy a chicken from Tesco's, and
Oh,
Mark couldn't believe that there was this product called bread sauce in a packet, and so the song's just about that.
that's amazing.
Yeah, well, it
So,
is amazing. Have a listen to that one. Mark Rylance Was My Lodger,
I love that.
by Graham Fellows.
I love that. I will do that. So everybody,
Thank you.
please do it. Now, here's the final question.
Go on.
I think you might have.
No, I've forgotten it. So
Okay,
remind me.
which song do you wish you could have written?
Oh, okay, yeah. Apart from Thunderclap Newman, well, I should I'm a big fan of. I suppose deep down, I was hoping to become a sort of jobbing songwriter. Like Tony Hatch, or Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil. That amazing duo that wrote so many Tin Pan Alley songs. Classics in America. Are you aware of those two?
I'm not actually.
Well, you will. You'll know their songs. They wrote "You've Lost That Loving Feeling,"
Oh my God, what a great song. Okay.
which is
Yeah.
probably the one I would choose. But they also wrote amazing classics like "It's Getting Better." Mama Cass sang that one.
Brilliant.
And they wrote "We Better Get Out of This Place"
Brilliant song.
for the
Animal.
Animals. Yeah, I mean so I don't know how they did. They also wrote some rubbish like "Saturday Night at the Movies" for the Drifters, but they just wrote songs all the time, and that part of me wishes that maybe I could go back to doing that. It's just I don't know if there's much of a market for that, is there? You've got to be like a Guy Chambers. You've got to get connected to a big star and just help them out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's very few songwriters who can seem to command that respect and clout where you just go, cover that. So you'd have to be Lou Reed or something, or Joni Mitchell. Then people will listen to your stuff. But when I signed to Chapel Music, that's what I was trying to do. With as well as my own stuff, I actually got put with a songwriter called Billy Lipsey, who'd had some success with Five Star. He wrote "Rain or Shine," and I think that the idea was that I was going to use my quirky lyrics with his sort of production techniques, and we were going to turn out lots of hits. It didn't happen, sadly, but I did John Shuttleworth instead.
Brilliant. So we're going to go with the "You've Lost That Loving Feeling."
I think probably it's such a classic, but there are many others that I could have chosen.
That's an enormous song.
Well, it is, and because it's got so many bits to it,
Exactly.
and it's got that amazing bit in the middle. I mean, no, Phil Spector, deserves a lot of credit for that. But the baby, if I could only, and you just as a listener, you're kind of, you don't quite know what to do.
That's so true. It's
Yeah.
so true. Mate, Graham, it's been so good talking to you. And I honestly wish I could talk to you for longer, but I've literally got to go to work. So
That's all right.
Thank you so
You got
much.
to open up the theatre.
I've got to go and open up the theatre for the celebration of Robert Burns.
Oh, wow. Do you know, I had such a good time. And anyone who's listening who's where your theatre in Lyme Regis is in striking distance, I urge people to go because it's fantastic. It's got the best view from any dressing room window that I've seen. And I put that on social media. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
Yeah. Because I mean, and I would love to come back. I really hope I can maybe come back in 2028 with my show.
The best of. Thank you, mate.
Thanks a lot, Elijah. Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Bye.